Chris, we've missed you here in Tuscaloosa. I hope you're having a great day, sir.
Oh, doing good. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah, no doubt. We're spending a lot of time talking about the Super Bowl, Nick Saban recruiting. Certainly, let's go to the Senior Bowl that you had a chance to get to know down there. What was your big kind of walk-away message from the Senior Bowl?
Well, the Senior Bowl's just like the East-West game, but more importantly for the Senior Bowl, it is a great environment for us as scouts to put guys through situations that maybe they didn't go through in their college season. So a guy plays a lot of press coverage, see how he does playing off, or vice versa. I think its game is probably more important for the smaller college players because they're playing at a higher level of competition against better players. So I think it means more for them to play well. It's just a really good practice environment where we can put them in one-on-ones and get a lot of good work. And the game is not as important, but certainly if you play well, I think it's as I always tell the kids, that it's a great chance to improve your stock. If you don't have a great week, it doesn't hurt you because you've got your body of work to stand on. But if you play well, it's like the old Bill Walsh theory that, if you do it once, then it's your job as a coach to get it out of the player more consistently. So if you show that you can do something, then it really enhances your abilities and capabilities. And I thought we did, is every year, we really got a lot out of learning about a lot of players. And people focus a lot on the quarterbacks, and that's rightly so every year, but a lot of good players that I thought really helped themselves a whole bunch. But it's just, Ryan, it's a piece. Every player, the evaluation of every player is like a puzzle. And the All-Star games, the Combine, are just pieces of a puzzle with a lot of layers and a lot of pieces in it. So it doesn't make the whole puzzle. It's just one piece of it, but it is an important piece.
Chris, when you look at quarterbacks here for just a couple of minutes, there's no secret, and Nick Saban's talked about this before, of how much it goes into evaluation at quarterback on the high school level and then the college level. We put a lot of value. A lot of teams strike out. They'll draft a quarterback. Why do you think that is, that there's so many misses on that one position?
Because it's an intangible position mainly more than physical skills, and it is a developmental position. So players, while they have ability, it's about how you develop them. And, it's about a guy's capacity and willingness to learn. Some guys have the capacity, but they're not really as into football as others. Tom Brady's Tom Brady, not because he's the most physically gifted. Tom Brady has gotten stronger. He's gotten throughout from when he came out of Michigan into the NFL, and he's gotten more accurate, and he's got it by improving a lot of different mechanics. But he's built his body up better, and he's playing at 40 years old because he's doing some things that, with the help and advancement of modern technology and nutrition and whatnot, he's made the commitment to it. So finding out that, can't do that on tape. You can see the results on tape, but how committed is a guy to football? How is he going to handle pressure moments? You can be a great teacher, but if you're not a great student, a lot of great professors flunk students because they don't go to class, and they don't do their homework, and they're average students. And then you got some that are really good students that are not taught very well. And so it's combining that is very difficult. And in the NFL, we change coaches at a rate of about 7 or 8 a year. So you take a quarterback that maybe has some of those qualities, you put them in a system, and then after 2 years, you got a new system, a new coach, and then you're learning something different. And before you know it, the guy's been in the league 6 years and said, well, this guy hasn't done anything. Yeah, he's been through 4 coordinators and 3 head coaches. Well, there's not a whole lot of consistency there to build a solid foundation. So in the ultimate developmental position, you've got to have a player with the physical skill sets, the work ethic, the capacity to learn, and you got to have good coaching. So that combination is tough to come by, and that's why there's so many misses.
We're talking to Chris Landry right now, LandryFootball.com, football views from a coach, a scout, administrator, the Tuesday and Thursday podcast that's posted there on LandryFootball.com. There's tons of news, tons of nuggets. Let's also ask you about the coaching changes that have happened here in Tuscaloosa. What's been your opinion of all the changes that's happened with Nick Saban's staff?
Well, it's kind of a typical process for him to go through every year when he anticipates that he's going to lose coaches. And so he hires guys, in essence, every year that he adds people to the mix that can be involved in different areas. His philosophy's always been we have our certain where we're going to do it here. We want to get guys that can get acclimated to what we do and how we do it, so that when we lose people, it's an easy transition. He really started this when he went to the Dolphins. And it was something we did and we talked about when he first got there, that, Wayne Huizenga made an unbelievable commitment. Nick actually, I don't know how many people really remember this or know this, but he actually hired an assistant coach for every position. In other words, he had a D-line coach and an assistant D-line coach, a linebacker coach and an assistant linebacker coach, so on and so forth. And his philosophy was, so when he lost guys, as position coach to coordinators or coordinators to head coaches, he had somebody that he can promote from within. Well, he's taken that philosophy and he's done that at Alabama. Now, he doesn't have an assistant for every position, but what he's got is, with analysts, he's got people that are very, very involved, different experience levels, different involvement with different sort of schemes and ideas. And, certainly on defense, he's got a certain style that he wants and he teaches, and he now has people in place to where they can teach the people coming on board. I think adding the pieces that he's put together has been pretty impressive, in that you've got a good combination of guys that have been around the system, like a Mike Loxley. Getting the young man out of Penn State's a very good, bright coach that is going to be able to add some things as well to the passing game. The RPOs, understanding that the things that he's been involved in. So, is typical. You look behind the scenes, and they've got some really quality coaches, and you see it when the level of coaches that are interested in coming to the program. It's the place to be if you want to, make your career and make yourself special. Now, the kid, it's pretty normal. You get a coordinator job at a place, at a school, and it's maybe a Sun Belt level school, and you get a chance, to go to an Alabama and be a position coach, or you got a chance to jumpstart your career to take it to the next level. And that's why it's a very challenging to work for him, but very rewarding in terms of the exposure and the experience that you get working under that system.
Coach Saban has also put a heavy emphasis on recruiting elite recruiters, not just coaches, but guys that go out, beat the bushes, and find this elite talent and evaluation. It seems like he's putting a bigger emphasis on that with this coaching staff.
There's no doubt about it that it's about talent. It's about keeping that level where it has been, where it's been the dominant program recruiting in the country. Georgia is challenging that right now, and I think that he's, in his eyes, he's got to match that. I don't think you can cover guys up, but in college, there's no doubt that you've got to have the right mixture of a staff. See, in the NFL, it's not about your evaluation skills. You've got that part covered. You want the best teachers you can get. But in college football, very often you will take the better teacher and you may pass him over for the better recruiter, because you've got so many guys, obviously, that can recruit, that are allowed to recruit, and you can perhaps cover up a certain position or two a little bit, not a lot. You can't have a bad coach, but you can take a lesser X's and O guy and still coach around that, but you can't coach around recruiters. You've got to get the elite talent, and it's been a big part of anybody that he's looked at and considered for any jobs. I know we've talked about it. It's just been, this guy's a little bit of a recruiter, and that is that's more than a tiebreaker. Sometimes it doesn't even break ties. As I said, it pushes a guy over the top who might be a little bit less as a position coach, but as a recruiter, it makes up for it.
Chris, a lot of things have been said about how Nick Saban works his coaches. I mean, is this the hardest working coaching staff probably in the country that's in Tuscaloosa? I mean, where would you compare it?
Well, he's demanding, and it is. Here's the thing that they do better than most anybody that I've been around, both he and Belichick, is they define the roles. You come in just like a player. He'll tell them not everybody's for this. Not everybody. Alabama's not for everybody. Our program's not for everybody, and so he basically tells them, this is what your role is going to be. This is what's defined. You're not promised anything other than this is the job that you'll be given, and you'll be evaluated on what you're asked to do. So it's tougher because he doesn't do warm and fuzzy. Okay, he's not. If you like. You like to go for the group golf outing on Friday before a home game, then you can do that with Mac Brown at Texas. You're not going to do that at Alabama. It's just not the way it's going to work. So it's not for everybody. And so for certain guys in certain points of their careers, it's not a real good fit. Do they work longer hours than anyone else? Not really. I think there are others that work just as long, but I do think they work smarter than anyone, and he does delegate. So, for example, this is part of having a larger staff. He can have a guy that specializes just on third downs on offense or red zone on offense. Same thing on defense. And when you can focus on that and you work harder on that, and you've got other people on other staffs that, they don't have a guy that specializes in that, or they're having to do it with a younger guy as opposed to a guy that's maybe been a head coach before and has been a coordinator before that's now an analyst. That's the advantage, and that's the advantage of being able to pay very well on a program that makes a lot of money. They can get a lot of quality ideas, but very often, Ryan, that is difficult. To get a guy who's been a coordinator or a head coach to want to be an analyst and do that, sometimes their egos, that doesn't work. And, I think what makes it work is that Nick is very, very demanding, and he's very abrupt if he has to, and to say that you've been a head coach, you've been a coordinator, this is your role here, and that's that. And not everybody's willing to, accept that.
So, Chris, when you look at a guy, and I know you've mentioned him earlier, Dan Enos, left Michigan, a job that he had just accepted to go to Tuscaloosa and work with Nick Saban. Is this just because they feel like that this is a better launching pad to try to get back into where they want to be?
Yes, better launching pad, and I think he feels like from an opportunity to advance his career and to work for probably the best that's ever done it is a big, big selling point. As I said, it's kind of one of those things it's like going through the meat grinder when you work for Nick, but you come out of it in really good shape. So I think Dan has been around. He's done a lot of quality things. He's had some success. Some other places it hasn't worked out as good. I think for him it's a great learning environment. I describe it like this to other people. If you had a son or a daughter and they wanted to get the best business degree possible, and it wasn't a resource issue, meaning it was going to be paid for, and you might want to send them. I don't know. Help me, Ryan. I think is the Wharton School of Business in Penn the best. Let's say that one's the best, or Harvard.
It's got to be. It's got to be one.
So let's say it's the Penn, the Wharton School. You got a chance to go to that school, or someplace else that's good. But if where you live for 2, 3, 4 years, and the money, if that's not an issue, you certainly would want them to have the best advantage. And And depending upon yourself and your goals, that would probably be the best place. This is the Wharton School of Business for coaches. This is, and again, not for everybody. People don't want to maybe deal with it in their own way or at a certain point in their career. But it is the gold standard for helping yourself and developing yourself in your career. And I could absolutely see a guy like Dan and some other guys. I know just from dealing in the business, there are a lot of guys with a lot of experiences, very impressive resumes that have an interest and constantly say, can you help me in with Nick? I'd be willing to do this, willing to do that. And so it is something that is very, very attractive, as tough as it is.
When you look at Dan Enos, the word on the street, nothing official, I got to put that in there, nothing official from the University of Alabama. Nick Saban told us that he'll give us a release when he wants us to have a release. That's what he told us at the Senior Bowl. I mean, I promise you, that's what he said.
Yeah, I know.
So
I believe it.
Nothing official. You know him better than anybody, so you know exactly what he's talking about. So we haven't got official, but we think he's going to coach quarterbacks. If that is the case, how big of an asset is it when you can have a coach, not a coordinator, just focused on quarterback development and obviously getting that position to raise up?
Well, I think it's huge. It's one of the things that I've always said this, and particularly as it relates to the NFL, it is a pet peeve of mine in the NFL because you don't have limitations on coaches in the NFL. It is an irritant of mine everywhere I go and I speak and I talk is every coach in the NFL should have a quarterback coach. Working under the coordinator. I mean, even if you're the coordinator that is a quarterback quote-unquote guru, having a quarterback coach underneath him that works for him and answers to him is important. In college, it's tough to do. We know there's limitations on coaches. We're adding a coach now. I would definitely, and again, we've talked about the importance of recruiting, right? But I think the most important position on the field warrants having a position coach, even though I had only 4 or 5 on the roster and one is playing at one time, having somebody that's focusing nothing on his footwork, giving him constant feedback in practice, whereas the coordinator who's coaching the quarterback but also is having to have an overview, I think it's always missing the boat. So it is, to answer your question, a huge advantage and something that I think more colleges should take advantage of. But the reason why you don't is because of the limitation of coaches, and often you got to put those resources elsewhere.
Let's stop right here. Let's talk about LandryFootball.com and invite people to connect with you. No doubt on the website. It's a great subscription service, whether we're talking about fantasy, recruiting, coaching, scouting. It's football views from a coach, a scout, an administrator. It's simple, LandryFootball.com. Chris, add something to that.
Well, check it out. Right now, we've got a lot going on. We know the Super Bowl is this weekend. We're breaking down the game for you, but we're also breaking down each and every NFL team, every player graded on every team. So we do it that way because that's the way it's done in an NFL organization. You grade every team, you put a grade on them, and you see how the players' grades and their color-coded grades will explain what they mean. Then we start breaking down who graded out the best at each position in the league. Then you get the free agent list, and you start to work off of that. Parallel to that, we're also evaluating and going to be breaking out our draft boards, how players stack up by position, overall, scouting reports on all of them. The college football fan, we certainly, with signing day next week, we're going to begin to get into a series where we break down every player that your team has signed. So, for example, if you're an Alabama fan, a scouting report on every player that they've signed. The chance for me to get through all the tape, you'll get a complete detailed scouting report. Not just, hey, this guy's good. This guy's a 5-star. What the heck does that mean? And all 5-star. What does it really mean? What is the skill sets? We break it down for you. So that's what we do for you. We take you inside the film room, bringing you a coaching and scouting perspective. If you like football, you'll love LandryFootball.com. You can follow us on Twitter at LandryFootball. Also give you a lot of the latest news and notes going around the college and pro game. So LandryFootball.com is where you want to be. We think you'll love it.
Chris, as you begin to break this game down, and I know people can go to the website and get a ton of more information that you'll be able to cover here, but what are the things, the matchups that stick out to you about this upcoming Super Bowl?
Well, in order to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, you've got to do something that's very difficult to do, but you've got to do it. You've got to bring pressure through the A-gap, between the center guard gap for 4 quarters. And if you can't do that for 4 quarters, you're going to struggle. The Falcons did it for a half last year and did it successfully, but they couldn't finish in the second half, and that was a problem, and it hurt their ability to continue to control the game. So I look and I say the teams that have had success against New England, the Giants did it. We've got to go back a few years, but they did it twice in Super Bowls where they had enough depth on the defensive line to bring good pressure. And the Broncos did it in 15 in the AFC Championship. We've seen the Ravens do it once or twice in the playoffs. That is, bring good pressure for 4 quarters. Combined with, it has to be both, you've got to do a really good job of rerouting the receivers off the line of scrimmage. Because when you bring extra pressure and you blitz, he gets the ball out quickly, and he'll tear you apart. You've got to bring good base pressure. 4-man pressures, some 5-man pressures, occasionally mixing some things up because Brady's really good at reading your mail and getting a feel for what you're doing and adjusting to it. So you got to have some wrinkles, and it's better to throw the wrinkles early to kind of throw some things and say, well, we haven't seen that on tape. We call that unscouted looks. Throw that at them. You got to do that. And if you do that, you can have success. I do think the Eagles' personnel matches up very well against the Patriots. I think they've got depth along the defensive line to bring pressure for 4 quarters. Can they do it? We'll see. That's what's great about the games. You got to do it. You can talk about it, but you got to do it. Then offensively, I think Philly's got to be able to run the football. I think you want to, like against Atlanta, they ran the football, ran power very well. Against Minnesota, they attacked vertically a little bit more. I think, running power against the Atlantas and in New England makes sense because you want to limit possessions, offensive possessions by those teams. So I think that's what they want to do. I do think that they're going to have some wrinkles for Nick Foles. They're going to try to force him to hold the football, but it's all going to be stemmed on how well can Philly run the football. If they can run the football, run with power, then the RPOs start to work. If you slow down the run and you take away the perimeter screen game, and Foles has got to hold the football and throw it outside the numbers, then it becomes a little hairy.
Chris, when you look at Tom Brady, how much longer can this guy do this?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a year-to-year situation, but we might be saying that for another 2 or 3 years. The guy has done a phenomenal job of keeping his body into shape. I've, breaking down tape all year of him, you could see that, he doesn't move very well. I mean, as I like to say, nothing good happens when the ball's in his hands. It's what he does when the ball gets out of his hands and he throws it. He doesn't move very well. But, boy, do they protect him up front, and, boy, is he great from the neck up, seeing the field. He is so well prepared. He is so gosh darn competitive. I don't know that I've seen anybody quite like him in terms of competitiveness. That word is thrown out a lot. There are a lot of competitors, but this guy is so competitive that everything he does, he's worth more money than he'll ever be able to spend in 10 lifetimes. He just loves it. He loves practice. I was out there a little bit because I do a lot of work for Bill Steele and the Patriots, and at practice over there a couple of days before they left for the Super Bowl. This guy is he's the same way at the first day of OTA practice as he is for Super Bowl practices. It's about, challenging himself to get a little bit better in the footwork this week and a little bit better on third downs. Hey, what can we do to work on third down? He's just so darn competitive that I don't know. It's just the body breaks down, Ryan, and you just don't know. That is undefeated. The Father Time's undefeated, and I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't. But right now he's certainly still playing at a high level.
You talk about competitive. I always think about the guy in Tuscaloosa. I don't know if I've ever met a guy like this. He wins the national championship. 2 days later, he's calling a meeting with his coaching staff, telling them they're the laziest bunch of worthless pieces of crap he's ever been around. I mean, that's the type of guy in Tuscaloosa. It's that competitive edge. Never stops. I mean, I'm sure probably Bill Belichick is the same way. He wins a championship Sunday. It's right back to Monday on working on 2018 season.
Yeah, no, it's listen, I've been a part of it. I've done a lot of work. I mean, they don't they're not even lined up for a Super Bowl, parade, and he's already working towards the NFL personnel free agency. And in fairness, think about this. Every team that didn't make the playoffs, they've been over that last weekend was right, that first week of January. So they've spent the entire month looking and evaluating their team and starting to get ready on free agency. Well, you go to the Super Bowl, you're a month behind. That's how he looks at it. Belichick does that. Hey, we're a month behind in our preparation for the off season, so we've got to do more. And I know Saban was that way, but the season doesn't extend much longer for them. But he always says, we got to play an extra week, and it loses a week of recruiting. That's the way he's always looked at it, and he looks at it as a challenge. A lot of it is just constantly looking forward, and they never, ever sit there and worry about or take any time to say, hey, look, I accomplished this or I accomplished that. I think at some point when they're on the rocking chair, they'll look at it, but they don't ever look at it that way, and that's what makes them great. It's wanting to go on and move to be the next great thing, the next thing we got to do to be great next year, because it's a different group of guys, and I think that's what motivates them. And a lot of us that have been around those guys, we kind of look at it the same way. You got to love the process. If you don't like the looking at the film, and I'm sitting here as I'm working, I'm finishing up my pro personnel charts around the league, and it's fun. It's a minutia. I do a lot of it myself because I literally highlight each guy's grade individually. You got to love it, because if you don't love it, you're not going to spend a lot of time doing it. If you don't spend a lot of time doing it, you're not going to be real good at it. I think they're all in love with the process. The great ones are.
Let me ask you real quick, Alex Smith going to the Redskins. What do you think? Good trade?
Well, listen, this was cast in the die a long time ago when the Redskins put the franchise tag on Alex Smith. On Kirk Cousins. You can't, I always say this, you can't put the tag on a quarterback and then try to sign him for less. See, once you put the franchise tag, and the franchise tag is $25 million a year, you're not going to be able to go to the player and the agent and say, now let's work a long-term deal out where we can pay you an average of $18 million a year. It doesn't work that way. You've said that you're going to pay him $25 million a year with the tag. So you basically set the price of what the negotiation price is going to begin at. So I knew that was never going to be a possibility of them getting a long-term deal, and it was about them moving on. So, did they get better? Probably not much better. Alex Smith had a really good year, better year than Kirk Cousins. He is 33 years old. They're going to pay him a lot of money. But to me, this is not about, they'll look at it as you're trading Kirk Cousins for Alex Smith. No, the reality is they left before they looked in the Kirk Cousins situation, and they basically had to move on from him because they had no chance of signing.